Thank you, Rabbi Chapper. The rabbis of hertsmere, we're not just friends. I would say that we are yedidim. We are beloved brothers. And it's a very special setup that we'd be able to rely on each other and spend so much time, if necessary, with each other in different places of the world as well. And I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight and for being here. I want to share with you tonight, perhaps in the next 10 minutes, something that comes from a rather unusual source. And it's a very strange story, but it's a very powerful and profound story. During the reign of Alexander I and Tsar Nikolai in Russia, in the early 1800s, the Jewish people, Am Yisrael, suffered for 56 years. What was happening at that time, very briefly, was that Jewish children were literally being kidnapped from their parents, sometimes as young as 5 or 6 years old. They were conscripted into the institutions of Tsarist Russia with the simple intention that the conditions that they were being placed in would force them to adopt Christianity. They were, historian tells us, conditions of brutality, of pain, of suffering and torture. And the whole point of this was that they would forget their youth, they would forget their education, they would forget their religion. And discipline was maintained very strictly. Sometimes there was threat of starvation. There was even corporal punishment. At the age of 18, these pupils were then drafted into regular army units. They had to serve for 25 years. And by then they were brainwashed, forgetting everything they'd been taught as young kids about God and Torah. And the Tsar's God was supposed to become their God, so to speak. And we're told that out of the thousands that were taken away, very few held steadfast to their beliefs and they refused to be swayed or influenced in any way. Even merciless beatings couldn't break them. And we told as well that the Russian authorities used to send forged letters home to their parents saying that their children had converted to Christianity, and they received angry letters back from their parents saying, when you leave the army, you have no place in our villages, you have no place in our home. When at the age of 43, they finally finished their service, they had nowhere to turn. These former soldiers were searching for acceptance, but settled for one thing, and that was loneliness. With no family and very few memories, they scrambled to do whatever they could in their Judaism. So we're told that that happened once in the middle of the 1800s. A man by the name of Rav Yidel, who was a Socher Shaba Chassid, spent time with his Rebbe, who was known as the Avner Nezer, a man that was born in Benzin. Some of you have been there with us, Rav Avram Bornstein. And he had traveled to the Ukraine on business. He wanted to get back to Poland in time to spend Shavuot with the Holy Rabbi. But instead he got delayed. He found himself spending Shavuot in a very unlikely village. It was known as one of the Cantonist villages that these Cantonist soldiers had set up. And he settled down for this uninspiring Shavuot. And after Yom Tov, he made his way straight to see his rabbi. And he entered his chamber and he lamented, I'm sorry I couldn't spend Shavuot with you. So he asked him, do these Cantonists have a rabbi? Do they have a Rav? And he said, yeah, actually they do have one. He's the one that remembers the most before he was kidnapped. He said, well, what did he say on Shavuot? He said, well, on the first night of Shavuot, he got up and this is what he said. He said, the Talmud tells us, as Rabbi Chapper just mentioned in passing, that when the Jewish people stood at Sinai, Kafa alehem har kigigis, Hashem took the mountain and placed it over them like a barrel. And then he turned to them and he charged them and he said, Immatem mikablim mutav. If you accept the Torah, then everything's going to be great. V'imlav, but if not, sham tekvodchem, there will be your burial place. I will drop this mountain on you. I will crush you. And then everybody asked the question, where's the commitment then? That happened later on at Purim. But this Cantonist rabbi got up and he says, why does it say in the Talmud, there your burial place will be? It should say, po tekvodchem, here you will be buried. He said something so profound. He says Hashem wasn't speaking to Moshe, he wasn't speaking to Aaron, he wasn't even speaking to the Jewish people that were standing at the foot of the mountain. They had already said, we will do and we will hear. That was from the bottom of their souls. The word Sham there was a nevuah, was a prophecy. That for the Jews at some time in history that find themselves on the outskirts, on the periphery of the Jewish world. And God was telling us, as this is what he said to the Cantonists, that if you don't hold on to Torah, if you don't accept it, we'll be buried there. Meaning, there's no way to survive the world without it as a Jew. Kihem chayenu, it's the key to our lives. And at that moment, the Russian soldiers gathered together, began to sing and dance with tears flowing down their faces. They had no families, they had no wives, they had no children, but they had the Torah and they had each other. And Rabbi Bornstein turns to his student and he said, you wanted to spend Yom Tov with me? You know, throughout the ages, there have been many individuals who have overcome crazy odds of being sham, of being there, simply by embracing some form of Torah and its ideals. And even today in 2020, many Jews find themselves in situations of sham. No fault of their own, maybe because of their upbringing or their environment. There's a whole plethora of reasons. But we're being taught over here that connecting to Torah is what binds us and what gives us, hopefully, hope. There's an idea I heard which I conclude in the next 3-4 minutes. There's a popular word that we know called morasha. Morasha means a heritage. It appears twice in the Torah. Once is the verse that we teach our kids as soon as they're little. Torah sivalan Moshe morasha kilat Yaakov. The Torah is an inheritance of Jacob. The second time is when it comes to Eretz Yisrael, where the Torah says, "Venatati otan lachem morasha ani Hashem." Hashem says, I will give you the Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, as an inheritance. It's the same word, two different meanings. Morasha, inheritance of Torah, and inheritance of Israel. Rav Frankel, who was the father-in-law of the chief rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Lau, says, if you look at this Morasha, the Torah, it's a very interesting thing. Every Jew for the last 3,000 years, almost every Jew has some connection to it. Some more, some less, some more far, some more near. Some keep all the commandments, some study more, some do kindness, some do charity, some pray more, some say Shema, some may just put on the tefillin, then have a space in between the tattoos for the tefillin. Some maybe keep the rabbinic mitzvot. Some may only keep matzah once a year, or even only come to shul once a year, Yom Kippur. But they have some belonging to Torah. The second Morasha of Israel, if you look at our history of our homeland, the majority of the Jewish people didn't get this inheritance. Millions of Jews have never even touched the ground of Eretz Yisrael. In 1267, when Nachmanides Ramban flees Spain because of his life, he gets to Yerushalayim, to Jerusalem, there's barely 10 Jews. So Rav Frankel says, what's the difference? How can you have two heritages given to the same generation that left Egypt? One everybody has a part of, and one only has a small minority. His answer is very poignant. He says, it depends how you get a gift. What's your reaction? When we received the inheritance of Torah, the other nations said, yeah, it's not for me. What did we say? We'll take it. We don't have to look at it. Naaseh v'nishma. Even before we know what it contains, we promise to keep it all. Says the Almighty, that is how you react to my gift? Then every Jew in every generation will have a belonging to Torah, even if those people are sham, even if they're on the outskirts. But when Morasha of Eretz Yisrael came, when the Jewish people were offered the land of Israel, there was confusion. We have to send spies. We have to check it out. Will we be successful? Moshe says, wait a second. You just experienced 10 plagues. You saw the splitting of the sea. We fought Amalek and won, and now you want to check it out? That's how you react to a present from the Almighty? Says Rav Frankel, maybe that's why the Almighty says, you reject my present. You ask, is it worth it? Maybe you won't have a connection for a while. This Shavuot, we reflect on the simple but most deepest and precious and profound ideas. And I think this year in lockdown, more than ever before. What an opportunity to reflect on the only thing that makes us into a nation and avoids us really being sham under that mountain is Torah Israel. We all received it, and on Thursday night we recommit to those ideals and to live by it. We embrace the gift 3,000 years ago and have an opportunity this year once again to connect to that gift in a more deep and meaningful way. So this year, when we're by ourselves at home and we have time to reflect, it's time more than ever before to step up and connect in an even more deeply and more incredible way to this special gift that gives us life, that gives us meaning, and gives us purpose.